You know that feeling, right? You design something, it looks absolutely perfect, but then you find out that for a whole bunch of users, it's completely unusable. Well, today we're going to dive into a fundamental rule of web accessibility that gets missed all the time. Why relying on color alone is a huge, huge mistake.
So here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll nail down the core problem itself. Then, we'll look at who we're actually leaving out. After that, we'll get into the official rule 1.4.1 and see how to put it into practice. We'll also cover some common mistakes to avoid and wrap it all up by looking at how this all leads to a much more inclusive web for everyone.
All right, let's jump right in with our first section, the color-only problem. This is all about what happens when those visual cues we all take for granted just vanish.
Seriously, just think about that for a second. We rely so much on color to communicate, don't we? Red means stop or error. Green means go or success. But what if that signal just wasn't there for you? How would you even begin to navigate a site? And here's a perfect example of just how simple the solution can be. On the left, you've got a form that just uses red text for required fields. If you can't see red very well, you're basically flying blind. But look at the one on the right. Just by adding a simple asterisk, the form is instantly clear to everybody. The color is still there, as a hint, sure, but it's not doing all the heavy lifting by itself anymore. And believe me, this isn't some rare niche issue. The W3C, the people who set the standards for the web, point out just how common this is. We're talking online forms, error messages, data charts where sales figures are in red and blue. This stuff is literally everywhere. So that brings up a really important question. Who are we actually leaving behind when we make this mistake? Well, in this next section, you'll see the impact is probably a lot bigger than you think. You know, it's so easy to just think, oh, this is for people who are colorblind. But the reality is so much broader. Of course, it includes people with color vision deficiencies, but it also includes people with partial sight, a lot of older users whose color perception changes with age, and hey, even anyone using a device with a black and white screen, like an e-reader.
And here's the beautiful part. When you design for one group, you almost always end up helping many others. By adding these non-color cues, you're not just helping someone with a color vision issue, you're making things better for someone with low vision, an older user, or even someone using a screen reader. It's really the heart of universal design.
Now, the good news is we aren't just guessing here. There's a clear, official rule for this from the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, or WCAG. So let's dig into Rule 1.4.1. It's a simple idea, but it's a game changer. Okay, I know, the official language is a bit dry, but the idea behind it is so powerful. It basically says whether you're trying to show an error, tell someone a word is a link, or separate bars on a chart, if color is the only way you're doing it, then it's failing. And that really is the simplest way to put it. If you walk away with just one thing today, let it be this. Color needs a partner. It's an amazing design tool, for sure, but it just can't be expected to do all the important communication on its own. Okay, so we know the rule. Theory is great, but what does this actually look like when you're building something? Well, this next section is all about putting that rule into practice and finding the perfect partner for your color choices. Let's start with a classic pie chart. In step 1, it's just using color. To some people, this is just a gray circle. Useless. Okay, step 2, we give color a partner. Patterns. Now, each slice looks different. No color needed. But we can do even better. Step 3, let's add another partner. Text labels. Now, it's absolutely crystal clear for everyone. No guesswork needed.
And here's an example you see 100 times a day. Links. On the left, the link is just a different color. That fails the test. On the right, though, the link is a different color and it's underlined. That underline is the perfect partner. It's a totally separate visual cue that screams, "Hey, I'm clickable."
This little table is a fantastic cheat sheet for this whole idea. You can see the pattern, right? Whatever you're using color for, just pair it with a second signal. It could be text, an icon, a pattern, an underline. That partnership is what makes it work for everybody. All right, let's flip the script for a second and talk about common mistakes. Because honestly, understanding why things fail is one of the best ways to learn how to make them succeed. So, the classic failure, a form field with just a red border to show an error. That's it. It's a definite fail. The fix? Give that red border a partner. Add an error icon. Add some text that explains what needs to be fixed. Simple.
And here's our old friend again, the lonely link. If the only thing that makes the link look different from the text around it is its color, it's a failure. That underline or some other non-color cue isn't just nice to have, it's absolutely essential.
Now, there is a little nuance here that's really useful to know, especially if you're a designer. This isn't just about a color's hue, like red versus green, it's also about its lightness, how bright or dark it is.
Okay, so here's the deal. Two colors that are pretty close in brightness, like a light green and a medium green, might look exactly the same to some users. But if your two colors have a big difference in lightness, like a very light green and a very dark red, that brightness difference can actually act as its own visual cue. The official rule is that their contrast has to be at least 3:1. That way, it's still easy to tell them apart, even if you can't see the color.
So, let's bring this all home. What's the big picture here? Well, it's about building a web that's more useful, more robust, and just plain more inclusive for everyone, simply by designing beyond color.
So why does this one little rule matter so much? Well, first off, it just makes your stuff usable for more people. That's a huge win. But it also forces you to create smarter, more flexible designs. And honestly, here's the best part. These changes almost always make things clearer for everybody, not just users with vision impairments. It's such a simple change that takes a giant step toward a better digital world.
So, I'll leave you with a little piece of homework. Go take a look at your own website, your app, the next thing you design, and ask yourself, what on this page is trying to communicate something important with only color? And then figure out, what partner can you give it to make sure everyone gets the message?